everybody. Good evening, and welcome to the January 24th, 2017 regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Austining. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to start with our roll call. Yes.
We have our public hearing this evening in the matter of local law number 1, 2017, for the purpose of amending the zoning and cabaret chapter. Visitors shall be accorded 1 3-minute opportunity to address the board. Is there anyone?
Roll call first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's what I was waiting for.
Councilmember Jeffries,
Present.
Councilmember Wilshire,
Present.
Councilmember Feldman,
Present.
and Supervisor Levenberg.
Here I am.
Is there anyone who's come to address the board? Public hearing?
Should I give a little bit more of an intro? Okay. I'm just going to give a little bit more of an intro. We opened this public hearing on Tuesday, January 10th, and continued it on Tuesday. Wait a second. Today is Tuesday, January 7th. Oh, no, it's not. It's the 24th. And continued it on Tuesday, January 17th. And we're reopening it this evening to not only get feedback from our residents and commercial property owners, but also so that we can see a presentation from our planner, David Stolman of FP Clark. And hopefully that will answer some questions and clarify that material on the record. Once this presentation is finished, we will once again adjourn the public hearing after we hear any comments from anybody who would like to speak. And then later this evening, we are going to enter a work session to resume discussion on what we've heard to date. Without any further delay, we already in the public hearing. So as part of this public hearing, I would like to invite David Stolman to give a short presentation on what it is exactly that we're talking about in English, so that everybody can understand it, what we're talking about and why we're here talking about zoning and cabaret amendments. So I think if we can slide over, because I think you're going to be using the screen, and maybe we need to turn off a light or two, we'll have an easier time listening, seeing, and paying attention. Great, thank you.
So this is a presentation, hopefully in English. Hopefully,
Can the audience hear? Tom says we're good.
and as as it says up here, the town board is entertaining a local law which would implement the remaining provisions, the remaining recommendations that are zoning related from the town comprehensive plan, which was adopted in 2002 and then updated in 2015. The chapter that contains the provisions relating to zoning is this future development and redevelopment chapter of the comprehensive plan. And these are the remaining recommendations that we're dealing with in this local law. There have been local laws in the past implementing the other recommendations that are contained in the comprehensive plan. And I guess the prior town boards left some of the more thorny issues for you, like the best zoning for Crotonville, because they know you could handle it. So one of the recommendations is that the town should evaluate the buffer requirements for commercial uses and the transition setbacks for non-residential uses adjacent to residential areas to determine whether the provisions need to be updated. So we did that, and the town board is entertaining a local law which provides for an increase in setback between driveways for any non-residential use located adjacent to a residential use or zone, an increase in the setback for parking areas for any non-residential use adjacent to a residential use or zone, and an increase in width of the vegetative buffer area that's required to be on the non-residential parcel between any non-residential use and a residential use or zone. And I can get more specific if anybody has any questions. The second recommendation of the comprehensive plan that the local law deals with is regarding the Maryknoll Seminary and adjoining or nearby undeveloped properties. And the comprehensive plan, and many of these recommendations go back to the 2002 plan and were incorporated in the update as well. It says the town should consider changing the zoning of the Maryknoll Seminary as well as adjacent undeveloped properties from R40 to a new 2-acre zone, which would have a 2-acre minimum lot size. This would provide consistency with the seminary zoning in the town of Newcastle and reduce the potential number of homes, new homes, should the land ever be sold and developed. And in response to that, the local law that the town board is entertaining would create this new R2A zoning district and would apply it to the Maryknoll and adjacent undeveloped properties. And then the local law contains Exhibit B, which shows that happening.
No, I mean, if you want to ask a question about this.
So, the R2, we were talking about Maryknoll R2? Oh, sorry. Maryknoll. Hello? I am? Oh, okay. So, Maryknoll right now in their other properties which are in Newcastle are already zoned R2?
2-acre.
Okay.
I'm not sure what they call it, but it's a 2-acre residential zoning district.
So that's is that where the nuns live?
I'm not sure.
Is it?
No, the nuns are in Austining.
Well, no, the nuns' first front door is in Austining. The rest of their property is in Newcastle. We litigated this a long time ago. Yes, that was Peter Tripodi. That was the issue.
Right.
Right. Their front door is in Austining. After that, it kind of there's a little bit more than the front door, but so it would be consistent if it was okay.
Mm-hmm. The next recommendation in the comprehensive plan says that the town should consider changing the zoning designations and permitted uses for the GB1, and that's general business 1, and neighborhood commercial zone lots in Crotonville to the R5 or the R7.5 districts. And the comprehensive plan goes on to say this would render these areas more consistent with surrounding residential uses in Crotonville. Oh, wrong way. So the local law contains 2 alternatives. And alternative 1 would change all commercial zoning in Crotonville to residential zoning. And this is alternative 1. And you can see that in every case up there, the GB1 changes to R7.5, the NC changes to R5, and I'm going from upper left to lower right. NC changes to R7.5, and that parcel that's zoned R5 changes to R7.5.
That other GB
You can't be heard.
1 zone up in the left.
There's a difference in grade. That's part of the property that's really on Croton River Road, down below. Alternative 2 would leave the neighborhood commercial zone intact. It would rezone a relatively large parcel on Stanley Avenue from GB1 to neighborhood commercial. It would rezone a relatively small parcel on Old Albany Post Road from GB1 to R5, and it would rezone a parcel on Cliff Drive from R5 to R7.5. And that's shown in this. Oh no, I'm sorry. Before we get to the map, I should mention that the local law would add 2 permitted uses to the NC district, those being artist live workspaces and mixed use. And mixed use is a building which contains a non-residential, a permitted non-residential use below and residential apartments above.
Okay, so. Thank you. So either the GB district or the NC district would both allow the new uses?
No, just the NC district.
Okay.
And
Well, it's the GB1 and NC Rezoning. Oh, local law would add 2 permitted use, oh, to the NC district, okay.
The mixed-use portion, did we specify in the mixed-use? Can you hear me now? Did we specify in the mixed-use portion how big the mixed-use could be?
There are bulk regulations which pertain to the NC district which would control that.
Do we know what those bulk, I mean, based on the size of the plot of land?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
All right, wait. Why did we change that one little section of GB to residential instead of neighborhood commercial? Where's it? Oh, yeah, the other one.
This one?
Right, so why is that little bit on top changed to residential when, why wouldn't it all be neighborhood commercial?
It could be, it certainly could be. It's right across the street from residentially zoned and used property, but it could very well be, and it may be more appropriate to make that NC as well.
Okay, I mean, I just want to keep it.
I think at the time that we were looking at it, it was is that a house? Yeah, because it was a house, and I think we were thinking we were gonna leave it as a house, because it was a house.
Right, at the time.
That was at the time. But we have, since looking at that, if we were to be looking at this alternative two, certainly has come up in conversation that we would entertain that NC, which would then give it the ability to be mixed use or artist loft or, other NC designations.
Right.
Is it a house currently in use? Is somebody living there?
Yeah, okay.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I know, I was, I was.
Yeah.
It's
What
helpful
would you
when you
like
can.
it to be?
He
We're
wants,
gonna get into
All
the
right,
public
fine.
hearing now.
he wants
later.
to
We're
stay
just
the way
gonna-
it is.
We want to continue. Go ahead. We can go back to this in our work session.
So we have a slide here of the two side by side so you can compare. Maybe we could look at this later in the work session.
Yeah.
And then there's a recommendation in the comprehensive plan regarding the GB1 zoning district. The GB1 zoning district refers back to the uses permitted in the general business zoning district along North State Road. That district was changed very substantially a couple of years ago, but the GB1 district has been referring to the GB district all along instead of having its own list of permitted uses. The uses permitted in the GB1 zoning district should be analyzed to ensure continued appropriateness. The comprehensive plan goes on to say, the town should consider changing the zoning and permitted uses for the steeply sloped area, which is zone GB1, which descends to the Croton River on the western side of the GB1 district in Crotonville. And it says uses more protective of the environment should be considered for this district. So the local law provides for the GB1 zoning district to have its own set of appropriate uses, which would be more protective of the environment than is currently the case.
So changing, and we've talked about this, but I'm just clarifying, changing GB1, the code for what, or the uses that are allowed in GB1, and just basically taking a look at that and revamping it. We've talked about what that lays out
Yes.
to. Yes.
We have.
So even if it stays GB1, the local law would protect that steep slope and everything else?
If we change it.
It is GB1.
If we change the permitted uses.
Yes.
Okay.
In order to do that, we'd have to agree to change the permitted uses which have been outlined, and I don't know if you have a slide, but
Is the, no, I'm trying to go back to the map. So, for example, this GB1 is down along Croton River Road, which is, there's a significant grade change, as you know, between the upper part of Crotonville and.
Yeah.
So we're talking about changing the uses in that GB1 zone
Oh. at
giving
the
it its
bottom?
own list of appropriate uses.
Okay.
It would be any place that is zone GB1. We're talking about updating the
That was the
permitted
storage.
uses in GB1. There's GB1 on North State Road. There's
Right.
GB1 here in Crotonville. So we're talking about changing generally what the definition of GB1 allows.
Okay. What if we wanted to allow something in this area and not on North State Road? Do we need GB2?
I hate to,
No.
We're just, yeah, we can talk
there's
about.
no-
Okay,
there's
I'm
no
just
GB
trying to-
one on North State
Presentation.
Road.
Okay.
It's not the work
It's
session.
all GB.
Okay. So he just answered
Contradiction.
no.
I didn't hear him.
There's no GB1 on North State Road.
Okay.
Therein
lies the
difference that you just said.
The only GB1 is right here.
Okay, thank you.
Well, then I'm confused about the GB on North State Road.
Okay.
Did we not, was there not discussion about changing the permitted uses there?
No.
We have not done that.
There's
Not
only
yet.
one
There's
use,
discussion, but we said we weren't gonna do it now because it wasn't part of the comprehensive plan.
right. There's only one use that the
Got
local
it.
law would eliminate, and that's self-storage.
So that goes to my continued statement that we need to continue this endeavor.
We're gonna continue to talk about this in our work session. Let's just get through, we'll continue to talk about all of this.
right? That was good.
Let's let him finish his presentation.
The next
and then-
comprehensive plan
Paraphrase.
recommendation says the town should update and revise the zoning law to define, or better define, all pertinent terms. So we look through the zoning law, and the local law provides improved definitions for terms including bed and breakfast establishment, inn, mixed use, retail store or shop, and wholesale establishment. The rest of the definitions had been worked on a couple of years ago and are in good shape. Next, the town should evaluate the appropriateness of the standards for cabarets, restaurants with music, and bars. And these standards should be amended if appropriate. So the local law provides additional lighting standards for cabarets and clearly highlights the noise standards applicable to cabarets. And then lastly, the town should evaluate the bulk regulations of the zoning law to ensure that there are adequate controls with respect to the potential for McMansions or monster homes. And the local law includes standards which relate the maximum permitted floor area of a single-family home to its lot area. And then the local law also provides zoning standards for bed and breakfast establishments. And that's it. Sure.
Don't go far. Sure, I have more questions for him later.
Well, we can come back to this, let's just turn.
later.
The lights on? Yeah. No, we will. Let's just, I just wanna. Follow protocol here. Okay, so where we're up to right now then is. So we're still in our public hearing, and we wanted to make that presentation to clarify for the public why we're having this conversation right now, and why we've been having this conversation for the last few months, where it came from. You know, we have been talking about this at our public meetings, but just to make it very clear that we started out with eight different items that had not been transferred to our code from the comprehensive plan and hadn't been updated, and that when we originally started these conversations, we looked at those and said, okay, well, you know, we need to address these, and we still think that they're relevant and they're good, and let's take a look at them. And that's when we actually imposed a moratorium on building so that we could make sure that we felt that we had made good in code for what was in the plan, because you can't really utilize your comprehensive plan unless there's code to match it. So we've been having conversations in our public hearing. We've already had some feedback, and once again, we would like to open it up now for the continuation of our public hearing, if there are any comments. And as our clerk had indicated before, come on up, state your name, and since there are not a whole heck of a lot of you in the audience, we usually give you 3 minutes, but if you need a few more, go ahead and take them.
Address also.
Address us?
Address also. They need a name.
Oh, sorry, name and address.
Supervisor Levenberg, members of the board, good evening. Bruce Fiorito, own the property on 39 Old Albany Post Road, which is in one of the properties in question. I own the property next door, which is 100 Croton River Road. You know, part of the plan shows that it's going up to the residential area, but actually between that house that we're talking about, one last lot that we're talking about, is a piece of my property from below, which is still GB1. So, you know, I still ask because I still feel surrounded with warehouses and things. I still feel that, you know, remaining GB1 would still be the right thing to do. I just don't feel that retail stores or, you know, artist loft or, you know, housing is really the right thing for that piece of property. It's only a quarter acre. It's not like, you know, I'm not looking to put trucks and machines and big things there. It's small things that can go there, not big structures. But like I said before, 17 feet from the property line, there's a warehouse. I mean, there's like not much of a backyard and a parking lot on another side, and then down the hill to a warehouse below it. Every place you look, there's a, you know, commercial structure, which even if the zone gets changed, I don't feel that it's really going to change the character of the neighborhood. And the house that's on it hasn't been habitated in 4 or 5 years, something like that. And it's, you know, it's kind of an eyesore standing there. The house that's opposite it is kind of up on a hill on a very steep driveway. It's a small house. But other than that, this commercial property on the other side, or General Electric on the other side of most of that whole stretch there. So I just don't find it conducive really for housing, that particular spot. So, and, you know, and I propose to, you know, take that house down and put up a nice small low, you know, garage type building, but with a, like a kind of a storefront is the way I envisioned it. A storefront with garages on the side or in the back. So it looks like offices from the front, you know, not a big high building. And I think it's the better, you know, a good use for it, and I think it's a better use for it. Because then after that property becomes the little section of my GB1 property, and then becomes the first house. And in fact, the first house is on such a tiny little postage stamp there that I actually let the fellow there park on a corner of my GB1 property, so, because he doesn't even have a driveway. It's hanging off the hill, this little tiny house. And so I give him a spot to park up there for many, many, many years. And but that's where really the residential starts at that point, that little house, and then it continues. So anyway, thanks for your consideration. And any questions?
So we're still in the public hearing.
Okay.
We're still in the public
Can't
hearing.
ask questions.
But when we have our work session, I mean, if you're gonna
I hate your rules. Okay.
stay for, yeah, go ahead. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, I want to
So-
ask
okay,
him a
fine.
question.
Okay,
we wanted.
but I didn't know we were allowed to do that in the public hearing. I thought we were supposed to just listen, and then what I was gonna suggest is that we have a conversation in our work session if we'd like to.
But it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just
Okay,
kind of.
I thought it was.
There's no legal rules to that.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, so this house hasn't been residential, nobody's been living there for a few years, it's been troubled property, right?
Yes.
The first house you're referring to that parks is beyond it, away from Route 9, or,
Away from Route 9.
okay, so,
Just past it going in towards Quaker Bridge,
Can we
towards
pull
Croton.
up the presentation again and then just take a look at the map
Northern is his.
Can I ask you, but
so we can all look
I won't ask you.
I'll ask.
Okay. So just above the yellow is the house that, right, so above it would be what you're, where the house is that's parking there? Or
It must be that little, it must be that little parcel right there.
a tiny little,
Tiny, tiny little house and a tiny parcel that's kind of hanging off the hill.
oh, lovely. I think here. Yeah, up here somewhere. Okay, and you're, okay, so you're envisioning a low garage with a face, is that a neighborhood commercial use? David?
That's just not what I was gonna ask, but.
It sounds like with a storefront it could be. I'm asking, I'll ask the professional.
And by the way, while he's looking that up, the reason could be low is because that property drops. In fact, the property is probably 4 to 5 feet lower than the road, like on the backside. So like you could kind of also keep it low, and that's my vision of putting the garages kind of around the side and the back. So from the front, it looks, it looks more in between a residential and just a blatant warehouse, so it would, I think it would fit the neighborhood.
It would be permitted in GB1, but not in neighborhood commercial. Neighborhood commercial is not as intensive a zone.
I'll wait.
Go ahead.
No, because I want to
There's
ask.
a question. Oh,
What, no,
okay,
I'll wait till our work session.
okay. Do you have any more questions for Mr. Fiorito?
Not right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who's come to address the board on this issue? Not seeing anyone. May I have a motion to
We're going to adjourn the
adjourn
public hearing.
to
Yep,
February?
to February 7th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Okay, so we are now going to go into our legislative meeting, and then we're going to come back around to our work session. And I don't think we have a long meeting, so we'll get there quickly, okay? If everybody's good. I have a few announcements this evening, beginning with a reminder for all of those watching us live that the roads are not only wet, but apparently very icy right now. And just want to make sure everybody's careful, stay in if you don't have to come out, watch us on TV. And we are hopeful that we'll get some sunshine in the next few days. But please do keep dry and safe and until we get to that point. I'm hoping so.
Yes, because we have a work agenda. If we could get through the announcements and do the
Northern, if you'd like
legislative
me to go, I'm happy to accommodate.
It's just, okay, so coming up on January 25th, the Ossining Public Library at 7 p.m. is hosting a stress-free workshop with psychotherapist and I think children's book author Gary Golio. And he's going to share his insight from his 40-plus years of study on the incredible positive impact of meditation. I think meditation, and calming breath techniques on overall wellness, and something to make you stress even less. You don't even need to register. Consider clearing some time in your busy schedule for this wonderful free event. Also at our public library on Thursday evening, January 26th, the Ossining Documentary and Discussion Series kicks off for the year with a showing of the film Lives for Sale, a look into the disturbing world of human trafficking. That will be followed by a panel of experts who will lead a discussion, and also this is another free event in Ossining at 6:30 p.m., again at the public library in the Boudars Theater. Finally, this Saturday, January 28th, a real feel-good family night out hosted by Galata House, the Ossining Elks, the Ossining Rotary, and Janet Brand of Houlihan Lawrence. It's going to be at the Westchester County Center. I think also Ossining Recreation and Parks is hosting it, and it features the Westchester Knicks. I think there's some kind of a demonstration and then a game. It should be a lot of fun. There may still be tickets available. Please stop by or call the community center. I think there's just a few tickets left, actually. I read that online. 941-3189 to learn more. The first 150 youth tickets are free with a paid adult, so be sure to get a ticket for this affordable family night out. And there's lots of affordable and or free opportunities here. Do any of my colleagues have any other additional announcements? Any events upcoming? All right. Next up, we have our liaison reports. So, does anybody have a liaison report that they'd like to share? All right, I just quickly wanted to let you know that I attended the Sustainable Westchester meeting last week, and there were a number of I didn't talk about this yet, did I? No. Okay, I'm having like a deja vu, yeah. There were a number of presentations that were made about some programs that I believe it would be in our interest to consider, and we're actually looking into them now so that I can gather some more information. One of them was about the electrical vehicle charging and clean transportation initiative, and most all of these have some kind of funding opportunities also attached to them. So we've actually invited somebody in to give us, to kind of assess if we have any possibilities for electrical vehicle charging station. I know we already have some, but there more and more electrical vehicles are coming out into the world, and we're looking for ways to actually partner possibly with private enterprises, as well as looking for places where people might want to have their car sitting while they're doing something else. And at the same time, if we had the ability to possibly purchase with some subsidizing electrical vehicles for our fleet, it would be a place for our electric vehicles to charge. So some of our employees that have vehicles that might need vehicles in the coming years that we've been looking into and know that they're on the table, there might be an opportunity to get electrical vehicles for those folks. Then Solarize Westchester is another opportunity that might come around again for us, and we had that here a few years ago. I think it was in 2014 to 16, and they may be reintroducing it. I'm not sure yet if they want Ossining to be one of the communities. They may want to let some of the other communities apply who hadn't participated before. But if in fact there's an opportunity for us to go through that again, it might be good. I think we partnered with Briarcliff on that in the village, and we were very successful in getting number of houses, solar panels. Then there's also a municipal solar buyers program for municipalities to find ways and or locations for either on their building stock or not necessarily on their building stock, but off their building stock to offset electric costs and purchase solar at very competitive prices and with lease terms that would basically could have the potential to cover our solar costs for many years to come. So all of those things, we've been talking to the folks that Sustainable Westchester has given us as the liaisons to see what possibilities are out there for us, and I'll be coming back to you with more information about that, hopefully in the coming weeks. That would be great if we had got some more information. So that was the main thing. I also want to let you know that I went up to Albany yesterday for two reasons. One, I had a meeting with Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff to kind of do it's called a postmortem review of the phase-in legislation, because she's hoping to introduce legislation that would benefit more than just the couple of municipalities that utilized it during the revaluation process, and have it be something that is in place and available to municipalities to adopt in advance of the reval, so that they know that that's a tool that they can use to mitigate the impact of properties that go up a great deal. The other reason I went up was as on the board of, we're a member of the Energy Improvement Corporation, the EIC, or Energize New York. And one of the things I come and talk to the board about was how we were hopeful that communities that were looking for additional support for residential and Energize would chip in, because they're looking for funding to keep afloat for the future. Do you remember this conversation? We talked about $5,000 and hopefully that they were going to become sustainable. And do you remember
the
that?
solar program, yeah.
Right, the residential program. But
Yes.
do you remember? And the other
Yes.
part of it is the PACE financing. So then that's the big ticket item for the Energy Improvement Corporation and for municipalities, because we can offer through the tax office, basically, that, like Terra Tile did, where the improvements that they're making.
The
they're-
business to
to the
becoming more
businesses.
green.
They can get energy efficiencies in their building, they can improve their building stock, et cetera. So this is actually a program, it's a national program, this Property Assessed Clean Energy PACE. And unfortunately, it hasn't scaled up as quickly as they had hoped, and they didn't get as much money at the beginning in grant money as they had hoped. So they need more funding from the state. So basically, we went up there, municipal leaders, to advocate for the state to find a steady stream to help PACE financing program continue until it can be self-sustaining. So,
More important with Indian Point closing.
oh, it's important for everybody, for everything. And it's basically a way to improve your building stock statewide. It's a way to increase our clean energy and efficiencies in our buildings and create jobs. And it's also good for banks. Banks like it too because they're able to lend. So it's got a lot of benefits all the way around. And it's something that NYSERDA actually is supportive of, and we were hoping that they would find. So we had a meeting with Assemblywoman Paulin, who's the chair of the Assembly Energy Committee, and folks from NYSERDA. And we hope to have some good news about that in the near future. It's always tough.
Question. When you are doing the evaluation of the phase-in, did you talk with the building departments and everybody about the pitfalls that they had and everything and how they can be avoided and maybe have a bigger conversation about a smoother transition?
Honestly,
having it
the
happen before
conversation
the-
was with Fernando Gonzalez, our assessor,
Okay.
who was very familiar with what all those pitfalls were.
Okay,
Because
good.
they were directly in contact with the building departments in each municipality.
Okay, good.
As well as Edie McCarthy, who's the assessor in Greenberg, because it also applied to Greenberg.
Right.
And that was I would say, the bulk of the discussion. Really
Okay,
had-
yeah, I
had
feel
to
like
do
there
with-
were some tweaks that could,
that's really what it had to do with,
Good.
and what their suggestions were for improving the legislation going forward, and it was all
Okay, great.
related to
Great,
that.
great, great.
100%, so, okay. So that's it. Hold on, let's get to the rest of my notes now, back to my meeting notes. All right, so I think we're up to, what are we up to in our departmental reports?
Yes.
Okay. Are you giving us a report?
No.
Okay, well, you're the only department here. If you're not giving us a report, then we're not having any departmental reports. All right.
Public comments on agenda items. Not seeing anyone, we'll go into board resolutions. Resolve the town board of the town of Austin hereby approves the January 10th, 2017 minutes of the reorganizational meeting as presented.
So I have a motion? Oh, okay.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Resolved that the town board, the town of Austin hereby approves the January 17th, 2017 minutes of the special meeting as presented.
Have a motion?
So moved.
second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolved the town board of the town of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated January 24th, 2017, in the amount of $123,274.96 for 2016 and $249,494.16 for 2017, for a total of $372,769.12.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'd just like to give a little thank you, shout out to Dale Ferrara, to Maddie Zahatch, as well as Victoria Caffarelli. Who else do I owe a shout out to? Cheryl Timmons, Peggy, everybody in the finance office for basically having to figure out munis on the go. And this is the first round. The voucher detail for 2017, all of the vouchers were, not all of them, but most of them were done in munis. And there were a lot of glitches, but you guys muddled through and got there. And there's a couple of bigger expenses in here that are related to the capital project for, no, is that not right? I think that was in,
Yes, for the 2016,
For the
they're
2016,
a
yes.
capital project. The bulk of the 2017 vouchers, I think we only had like 40 because it took us a while to sort of get in the groove. 2 of them are medical insurance bills for 2017. So the capital projects are in the 2016
right, so in
batch.
2016,
Yeah.
the, Fernando, the reassessment, the Tyler bills, they had been held for some time because there were some glitches in their software that he was hoping they would finally work out, which they finally have gotten to a point now where they've implemented what they promised, or they're in the process of implementing, so he released a couple of those, that he had been holding out, just to let you know. That's pretty much it.
As an aside, I think we're gonna need on some work agenda at some point, an update on Munis.
Yes, you
Because
have
I'm thinking
mentioned
a lot of people don't know what it is, including some of us don't know how it's working, and so.
And is it an
We've just been
improvement?
waiting till the people who have been working on it for so long are actually understand it well enough that they could give us a presentation. So we're getting there, and I think that as we're in this implementation phase at the beginning of the year, I think we'll be able to put that on the agenda in the not too distant future as part of our departmental reports, right? Okay, so we'll definitely include that in the not too distant future, as I said. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you.
Resolved, the town board of the town of Ossining hereby accepts the service contract with National Standby Repair, Inc. of Scarsdale, New York, for monthly services on the town's 7 sewer lift station generators at a cost not to exceed $8,925, inclusive of 4 scheduled calls on each unit per year.
And do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So this is our annual service agreement for the generators that service our sewer lift stations, and I am pleased to report that this price is the same as the contract for 2016.
And Michael's still happy with them?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't understand. I see you also have all make.
That's for the generators, I believe, right? One's for the generators.
For the generators, all makes is for the pumps themselves.
Oh, National Standby is the generators and all makes is the pumps, right?
But I thought he didn't like. Never mind.
Yeah, no. You're right, because I think we went over this when this board approved the contract last year, and I think
Right.
the question was between Gable and All Makes, right? I think we used to use Gable, and now we use All Makes, which is what the village has used for many, many moons, and that the town is using and is happy
All
with.
make was the one that you were using before. I don't know. That was the first one.
I think Gable was the one that, I mean, so long as I've been here, they were using Gable, and then they switched to All Makes.
I think
They
he's
may have been with
saying-
All Makes before
Yeah, that's
Gable.
what I guess what
It's
he's saying.
possible, yeah.
Well, it all comes back around.
Okay.
In any case, as far as we know, we haven't heard anything from the highway department that they aren't. I've only heard good things, that the guys,
they're
for
happy.
both of these companies are, servicing us
Just don't rock
well.
the boat.
I misspoke. It's Gable and National Standby that are the ones
Got
that
it.
swaps. All Makes we hear are like the only game in town, so I don't think they ever used anybody other than All
Okay.
Makes.
This is before my time, so I can't comment. Okay, so anyway, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby accepts the quote for monthly maintenance of the town's 11 sewer lift stations with All Makes Pump and Motor Repair, Inc. of Yorktown, New York, for a cost of $2,500 per month for the year of 2017.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And similar to the last one, this is to service our lift stations, and again, same price as 2016. I do want to let you know that we're hoping we will get their rates this year to adopt an additional resolution for both of these companies, so that if we have a fee schedule, if there's an emergency that we've already adopted the fee schedule, we don't have to get a quote for actual repairs that are done over $1,000. So that is our hope, that we can get that for our next legislative meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention?
Resolved, the town board of the town of Ossining hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign a contract between the town of Ossining and CAI Technologies of Littleton, New Hampshire, to provide tax map maintenance services for 2017 in the amount of $7,900, and be it further resolved that the supervisor is also authorized to sign an additional contract with CAI for GIS Internet Services Maintenance for 2017 year at a rate of not to exceed $2,400.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
This is another annual resolution which will allow us to keep our tax maps updated. The town assessor enthusiastically supports the signing of these contracts, which will help the town to keep up on our property values, especially after the townwide revaluation. And again, the rates are the same as in 2016.
You don't want to hear
Any other questions? Okay, discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Resolve the town board of the town of Ossining does hereby agree to participate in the boat steward program through Hudson River Sloop Clearwater in order to protect the Hudson River from invasive species, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to sign any necessary paperwork to initiate the program for the boat launch and beach at Lewis Engle Park, subject to approval by council to the town.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
As you hopefully recall from our last town hall meeting on January 17th, we had Samantha Epstein from Hudson River Sloop Clearwater, who talked to us about the boat steward program, and it's in its third year this summer, and they've chosen Ossining to continue this program. It's free to the town, which of course is exciting, and will hopefully help us to educate people about how they can ensure the prevention of the infiltration of invasive species into our Hudson River and to the Croton River. So I think it seemed certainly like the board was in favor, and I'm hoping that everybody still is. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Thank you, and we'll get in touch with Samantha and let her know the good news.
Resolved the town board of the town of Ossining hereby calls for a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, February 7th at 7:30 p.m. at the Ossining Municipal Building, 16 Croton Avenue, first floor boardroom, Ossining, New York, in the matter of the 2017 cabaret license for Ballroom Studio of Westchester, 565 North State Road, Briarcliff Manor, New York.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby calls for a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, February 7th at 7:35 p.m. at the Ossining Municipal Building, 16 Croton Avenue, first floor boardroom, Ossining, New York, in the matter of the 2017 cabaret license for Meyer Riviera Bar and Restaurant, 518 North State Road, Briarcliff Manor, New York.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved the town board of the town of Ossining hereby calls for a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, February 7th at 7:30 p.m. in the first floor boardroom, Town Village Hall, 16 Croton Avenue, Ossining, New York, in the matter of local law number 2 of 2017 regarding the extension of the imposition of a temporary moratorium on development within the town of Ossining to allow for a planning and zoning analysis consistent with the town's comprehensive plan.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So just as a reminder, I've spoken about it already at this meeting a little bit. In June of 2016, the town board passed a local law to enter into a development moratorium, which essentially froze any applications that had not yet been submitted in an effort to find out what kind of development our community really wants to have. Over the past 6 months, we've been analyzing recommendations from the town's comprehensive plan to decide whether we should propose adding them to our town code. The result is local law number 1 of 2017, the zoning and cabaret amendments we heard about earlier this evening. Even though we're nearing the end of this process, we were advised by council that in order not to allow the moratorium to lapse, because we have not quite finished it yet and don't anticipate we are going to do so in the time in which we had hoped, that we must enact another local law extending the moratorium. based on the discussion during tonight's work session, we will hopefully have a better grasp on how long it's going to take us and how long the extension should be in order for the board to have the opportunity to absorb all of the public's feedback, talk amongst ourselves, get the law correct as best to our best ability, and making sure that it reflects the input that we get from our community, as well as our feelings that we're adequately looking into the future of the board. And that includes also, of course, the input from our volunteer boards in Westchester County Department of Planning. So with that said, does anybody else have any other questions about this public hearing? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved that the firm of O'Connor Davies LLP be appointed auditors for the town of Ossining for the audit of the 2016 and 2017 financial statements in accordance with their contract letter dated December 22nd, 2016, at a fee not to exceed $51,000 for fiscal year ending 12/31/16 and $51,000 for the fiscal year ending 12/31/17.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oops, skipped a page. We have no correspondence to be received and filed. We do have monthly report. Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby accepts the following monthly reports for the month of December 2016, and that's from the Senior Nutrition Department.
Do we have a motion? I always forget that I have to do a motion
So
because
moved.
never used to have to do those. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
That brings us to visitor recognition. Is there anyone who's come to address the board?
Come on up.
Honourable Supervisor, Honourable Board Members, my name's Ted Lestrange. I'm 6 Jeffrey Court, Otisville. I'm afraid it's not good news, but it needs to be told. Genocide by Scalpel is a title given by one of the investigators into forced organ harvesting in China. Their updated research concludes that China's hospitals transplant between 60,000 and 100,000 vital human body organs each year. But China has no real organ donation program. Here in the US, with the most sophisticated organ transplant system in the world, a patient can wait up to 3 years for a matching organ to become available. In China, however, the waiting time is measured in weeks. Organ transplant tourists to China, including one from the US, can arrange a specific date for their operation, which means that someone will be killed on their behalf on that date. It's cultural taboo in China to donate one's organs after death. So what's the source of all these organs? The translation of these facts equates to tens of thousands of prisoners of conscience being killed each year for their organs. Most of these prisoners of conscience are Falun Gong practitioners, but also Tibetans, Uyghurs, and house Christians. They are routinely blood tested and their organs examined while held in China's forced labor camps, detention centers, and black jails. A 1984 regulation, ironically, decrees that they and their organs become the property of the state. On June 13th last year, the US House of Representatives unanimously passed Resolution 343, which, quote, condemns the practice of state-sanctioned forced organ harvesting in China, close quote. The European Parliament has also passed similar regulations. This has been happening for over 16 years, yet there is still a deathly silence on this issue. And that is why I need to stand before you, the elected and respected members of this community, to echo the heavy burden of this genocide as acknowledged by the House. China has total control of its own media and beyond. So it comes down to this type of word of mouth to divulge what's happening. Many dedicated researchers have gathered an enormous amount of data from current and archived hospital websites, medical journals, local media reports, telephone surveys, and other evidence for the 865 hospitals in China that perform organ transplants. Some books have now been written, and documentaries have been produced with more comprehensive information. So I've left this package for your attention, including that of a more recent award-winning documentary called Hard to Believe. I thank you very much for your attention.
I have a question. Have you spoken to the group running the documentary documentary series?
Documentary.
Thank you.
The
It's
one-
late.
The one you mentioned previously?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right. They might want to, when you have the documentary,
yeah, sure.
have a showing
Yeah,
and publicize it. The library does all kinds of wonderful things like that.
well, that's a very good suggestion, and I'll
And actually, the village mayor is very involved in scheduling that, so she might be a good person if you're
There you
planning
go.
to get in touch with the village of Ossining as well as the town of Ossining,
Yes.
which you're before tonight, then she might have a suggestion of that as well.
How you would go about that.
And my additional thought process would be if this is so obviously this is something that is happening enough for our federal government to have passed a bill. So it's not make believe, it's actually happening. And so what I'm understanding is that whoever is in a forced labor camp in China might be somebody that they utilize to harvest in Oregon because they can access those people, which is horrifying on so many levels. So you don't actually believe that it happens, but I understand that things happen that I can't believe because in terms of in terms of the ability to spread the word that this is happening so that there's an awareness out there, to Councilwoman Feldman's statement about providing that information, maybe to having a viewing in the documentary at the series, you might want to tap into the Westchester Library system because they do things throughout all the libraries like discussions, talks, films, and the like in terms of just, spreading the word.
well, thank you
And
very
just
much.
a continued follow-up to that question. So when you're coming to local municipalities, what are you hoping besides just having this particular opportunity to speak about this? I briefly looked at the packet that you provided, and I saw that Orange County has actually a group of Falun Gong people who, a community that's there. I'm not sure if Ossining has such a community or not. I don't believe we have a community, but I'm just curious what you're hoping for each of these separate municipalities to be doing about this.
Well, one of the enclosures there is there's some resolutions being passed by where I live, very close to there, and you would be very happy to receive such a proclamation, because all of this is good for the community. It brings awareness to the community and allows participation by the community in the knowledge and trying to prevent this. This particular avenue is something I've taken on. People do different things. What can we do? We're amateurs, so we do what we can.
Okay, very
Right,
much
thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much
Thank
for
you for
your-
your
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who's come to address the board? May I have a motion to adjourn into work session?
So moved.
All right, so thank you, everybody, and we're now going to continue our conversation about the zoning that we've been discussing earlier this evening at the public hearing amongst the board, so that we can see if we can give some direction to our planner as to which direction we believe we should go, and if there's tweaks that we'd like to make to this local law. And we've received input over the, did I take a vote on the work session? Yeah. I just want to make
I
sure.
know, we're just ready to go.
Yeah, I did, right? Okay, good,
just
just
ready.
checking. So, just want to make sure I didn't miss something on here. Okay, so, we've gotten input we heard from Donna Sharrett, we heard from Kevin,
can we-
Coral, we've heard from Maryknoll, heard from Mr. Fiorito, who's here tonight, trying to.
And a few other letters.
We've got a couple, the zoning board, we got a letter
can we talk
from
about-
Westfall, so I just wanna, I'm hoping to hear from
Zoning board.
everybody. The zoning,
What'd
ZBA
they
sent
say?
us something today.
So Westchester County said they're fine with all of it, and
They said it's
and
your
they
business,
and they
pretty
commend us for doing it.
Correct.
And
Exclamation point.
yes, and
Mhm.
where's zoning board?
Right on top.
What did they say?
I'd like to talk about that.
They wanna talk about North State Road. They don't know why we're talking about Crotonville.
Well, I mean,
Well, I have
I
a
don't
question for
disagree
David,
that
yeah.
we.
Said,
I-
express concerns with North State Road's current GB zoning, which includes manufacturing/industrial uses, and suggest that those uses should be eliminated in favor of cleaner commercial or residential uses. But the GB zone on North State Road does not allow manufacturing or industrial uses.
Okay, so just on this alone, my suggestion is that when we get out of this moratorium and make decisions, that we should entertain a thought process of possibly having one just on North State Road to take a look at them, and we could.
Yeah,
so
we need a
that's my
conversation about that.
suggestion on that. So my question about
Wait, I just wanna remind you one other thing though that you said.
yes.
Not just North State Road, because you had issues with some other.
Somerstown Road, Somerstown, yes, Somerstown and North State Road.
Okay, just so. I
But
didn't-
one's GB and one is just
Right,
zoning.
but I mean,
Yes,
you
you're
were
correct.
talking about
Yes,
both of those
very much.
spaces being ones
Yes.
that we should take a look at. Okay.
Absolutely. That's my thought process, and would hope that we would do it.
Okay.
I just. So if we were to pass the Crotonville NC, even though under NC, so tell me your last name again.
Rita.
Fiorito. Okay. So if Mr. Fiorito wanted to put the garage that he's envisioning on his property, if we change it to NC, he won't be able to do that, or he'd be grandfathered, or he'd need to ask for a variance, or what would be the scenario for him under those circumstances? That's my first question. And my second question is, does changing it to NC affect, besides that question, affect your business or your property in any other way? Okay. Yes. No.
Either.
Either. I understand the specifics that we're talking about right now, which is the possibility of what you want to do on this particular property, and if we change it to NC, that might preclude you. I'm asking if NC would would affect you in any particular way on your.
No, wouldn't
The GB zone?
But would the GB1 changes affect you?
GB1 permits warehouse and storage facilities and related business offices, provided that there's no outdoor storage of any kind. And
Okay.
and that property is zoned
But-
GB1 right now.
Can we?
Right.
Oh, this is.
So the changes to the GB1 wouldn't have
Is it
changed
Would
that?
would not affect
Okay,
Mr. Fiorito.
okay.
So the answer to my question is.
So if you look up
Yes.
there, where it says R-5 and the GB1 is crossed out,
Yes.
that's part of that larger GB1 district right now.
Right.
And that could remain
Bless you.
GB1 and would just be, an extension of the district up to Old Albany Post Road.
But that would be the only GB1 there. I mean, it looks like it's attached, but as we discussed,
Yeah, there's a cliff.
that GB1 is on a different
Yes.
grade.
Yes.
So it's not, even though in the picture it looks like it makes sense, it would be the only GB1 there, and
Right.
that. Can I just wanna, can I just
Yeah.
frame this
Go
a
right
tiny bit
ahead.
again?
Go right ahead.
Okay, and I have great deal of respect for all of our business owners, and but in my opinion, the reason that we're here, the reason that the comprehensive plan talked about this is for us to look at these neighborhoods and really think about them. And I hear what you're saying, and, you know, I've heard the same thing from folks on North State Road. Well, look, we have these things, we have these uses there now. It's only this big, it's only that big. You know, it's like anything. You know, you have to start somewhere, and sometimes you have to stop somewhere. And I think that we really talked about Crotonville originally. Our original conversation, this wasn't even on the map, right? We didn't even look at this. We just said, this is really a residential neighborhood. And these businesses have been there forever. Nobody's denying that they've been there forever and that they may have even been successful. But in this little, you know, windy road in this particular area where we have these very steep slopes with lots of little, like, almost bungalow-style residences to a certain extent at the bottom, it seems like it lends itself more to different use than what it currently is. Now, to be fair to all the businesses that are there, we're not trying to put anybody out of business. That's not our intention, is to put anybody out of business. But I do think that the point of this is to look with a broader vision as to what really makes sense in that location, in that space. And just because it's there now doesn't mean that it has to be there forever, and doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best, highest use of that space. That's what I think the comprehensive plan was trying to say. And now, you know, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody there. What I think we should do is do our best to make any business that's currently there be able to be successful as they are and until they decide that they want to move on. That's my personal opinion. And Karen actually shared a note in which she said something very similar. So even digging into some of the details, if they wanted to, you know, break down a wall and put up another wall, that it wouldn't hinder their ability to improve their current business. And I don't know how to do that. So that's where, you know, we leave it to the experts to a certain extent. But if in fact they then sell that business and it isn't purchased by somebody else who wants to move in and do the exact same thing, which they could conceivably do, that it would then open up the door for us to get to those higher and better uses in the not too distant future following, you know, a sale of a space. We're not trying to ream anybody or make these spaces less valuable when they sell them. So, you know, we're kind of, again, I think that's in my opinion why we're having these conversations. And I am so happy that you're taking down blight to the neighborhood, that you purchased a property. But I also think, I know that you might want to build what is maybe easy and good and a natural fit for, you know, things that also coincide with your business. But I just think it's important that we consider, all of us community-wide, what is, again, I'm going to just keep saying it, the highest and best use of those sites, thinking about those sites. And so, you know, again, we're not trying to hurt anybody.
You have to go to the microphone now.
Okay, if that was included in an NC zone, could that be just, because I don't really see, you know, business so much, you know, like a walk-in type business, a salon or something like that. Could that be also considered like a multiple family use that maybe then would make the property worth doing something by do a multiple family as opposed to a single family? Because it just doesn't condone itself to me to be a single family use, more like a rental property than a.
Yeah, what's the
Mixed use, you said.
Yeah,
no,
single
but
family is not permitted in either,
Single family
is not permitted in the
or
NC zone.
multifamily?
Single family,
but is
No, but I'm asking multiple.
multifamily allowed in the NC?
no. Neither the NC nor the GB1.
Okay, wait.
Mixed use would be allowed in the NC.
See, I have to say, in my head must have been, I'm sorry.
We
and
talked about wanting multifamily down
I
there.
was going to say, somewhere in my head, and I apologize, I really believe that NC meant that you could do either residential or business with parameters of what the business was. That's really what I thought. So clearly I was wrong somewhat, but I would ask, why not? I would ask, why? I'm leaning towards NC. That's what I'm leaning
Okay,
towards.
so I wanna ask
So-
a
so let's-
follow-up with that,
Yeah.
which is that, so we also heard from a gentleman who has multifamily,
Right.
which is considered part of GB. And in my opinion, that works, because
Right.
we're talking about residential. We
Yeah.
either wanted residential or, again, potentially small businesses that would lend themselves to a neighborhood that would be easier, easy for people to access by walking there. We're trying to make our communities more walkable. We're trying to make them more conducive to, I've talked about this before, millennials, and seeing the trends and patterns of how people are like, why people are moving to the suburbs now, and they're looking for more walkable, bikeable spaces where they can also get amenities more closely. They don't have to drive 20 minutes. I think we all know we have to drive 20 minutes to get to anything, anywhere, for the most part, right? Everybody, that's like a general rule in Westchester. So, things are changing. And Crotonville may or may not be the best place. And, I think you said that. I don't know if it really is. That's where we're gonna get a coffee shop. You said, I don't know if anybody really wants a salon. I don't know either. But
Well,
I'm just saying, looking at some of the trends in planning and what's changing and how areas like this are changing. If you have a somewhat higher density in an area, which seems to me like we do actually have in Crotonville, it might be a place where you could be successful with a certain type of business that might not be obvious right now because it's not there.
Okay,
all
so
right,
We are moving toward residential in the NC zone.
We are not? Is that what you're
We
saying?
are, we
we
are.
are.
We're adding artist live work,
Right,
which is residential.
Yeah.
Partially anyway, and we're adding mixed use.
right.
Yeah, that's not enough.
but
Next-
is there not a
The
zoning?
next step might be multifamily.
Yeah, is
Right.
there not a zoning that would allow both neighborhood commercial and multifamily?
Well, I think you're
Why
saying,
can't
can
we
we add
make NC?
multifamily to the NC? That's
Yes,
really
and
what
these
we're.
are the only
Crotonville-
NC
yeah.
districts in the town, so you don't have to worry about,
Well,
ramifications.
Crotonville has traditionally had a lot of mother-daughter houses, and it was always an affordable place to live, and there were, even when I was young, the parents lived upstairs, the kids stayed down there, then they switched when the families changed. So I would like to continue the ability for a whole family to live in a house. Multifamily housing, I think, makes sense in that area if done well, and, when I was younger, there was a deli, and it was a walkable neighborhood. You could go to the deli. There was a restaurant and a bar, which was really fun. But anyway, they had live entertainment, and it was a real community, an active community. And I would love to see that grow again.
But you're talking
And-
about
but-
mother,
but
you're
can
talking
I
about
ask you a
mother-daughters,
question?
because like, you want to be careful also.
That's
You don't wanna-
multifamily,
right.
No, but
No, but what I was gonna say is, we're not looking for,
apartment buildings.
well,
don't want
what
apartment
I'm
buildings.
trying to understand is why.
That's right,
So
the
we
big ones.
does NC exist, or are we making NC?
so it exists, as you can see on the map behind
Right.
you, but it only exists here in
Okay.
Crotonville.
So here's the thing. I'm not sure I understand why we can't have something that allows for single family and or NC. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Because if I want to,
Two zones.
if we, well, then why can't we change the definition or make another so instead of NC, here's my thing.
You could have multifamily as one of the permitted uses in the NC.
But multifamily means more than one single-family house, and I'm trying to bridge a gap between. So we're trying to. We started with this changing it to residential, right? And now, but I've always said from the beginning, I don't really want to get rid of our businesses,
Right.
right? I've always said that.
because you want the business income.
Because I want the business income. That's right. So now we're at a place where we're talking about this hybrid, right? This possibility of having what is NC, which would provide for certain types of businesses and yet allow for like a transitional and movement to the supervisor's point, like a movement of how things are happening and may happen in the future. But if the original thought process of the comprehensive plan was really to change it to residential, and we are still trying to hold on to some of our businesses. I'm not sure why I want to put in something that precludes the ability that if somebody buys one of those parcels in the future, that then they can't build a single family house because we have stopped it, which seems to be completely counterintuitive to the original. The comprehensive plans envisioned that
Okay.
this would be a residential area.
Yes, more
Completely.
Additional residences
That's-
that would
that
match
was
what
the
was up
invi-
on the hill, basically.
That's the envisionment of the comprehensive plan. We have turned around and said, well, but,
Yeah,
right? Well,
I'm a but.
Fine. That's fine, but I'm not sure I understand why I would stop someone who wants to buy a piece of property that was GB 1 or NC and change it. Oh, NC you can't right now, but if we changed it and say, no, but you can't, even though you want to, we're not going to let you build a single family house.
Neighborhood commercial precludes the single-family house?
That's what he's saying.
So far.
So, and I'm saying that, and that's
We're
what
really
I'm
messing
I have a
saying
feeling
is,
that's gonna
why,
change.
why can't we change
You
NC?
could allow single-family, two-family, and multifamily.
The only
Exactly.
thing I don't want to see is a huge apartment building, because I don't think that fits the neighborhood.
And that's what I
So
asked you.
can we,
Enough room, it's only a quarter
Well,
acre.
the question, that was the original question I,
Yeah, but
yes,
you
you
need
did.
parking.
The original question I asked him was about the mixed use and how big, and the
Right.
answer was plot size land is what does it, although the issue with that is we've talked about this before with this tier thing, because, you know, the same way we're trying to possibly within this stop McMansions, because you can build up to the lines, it's the same thing that can happen with mixed use, which is
Except we're just increasing
sometimes,
setbacks.
sometimes we allow, there's no ability to stop.
There are so-called bulk regulations for the NC zone as well.
Okay.
I didn't bring it with me, but the zoning law, I think probably the maximum height there is 35 feet, which is a maximum of 3 stories.
That's kind of high for Croton, don't you think, Crotonville? 3
how tall is that
stories?
deli building that turned into a house?
What do you think?
I'm not
Crotonville, 3
I think that's
stories.
3 stories.
That's 3
I think it's a store downstairs, or was, it's
Yeah,
apartment now.
and then it used to have 2
floors
stories
ab-
above, right?
Sure.
You don't
So
think
there's,
that-
the building across the street is 3 stories.
'Cause I remember, I know the building with the deli and all that, 'cause I used to walk past it many moons ago. But,
In the other days when people actually walked.
yeah, there were those days. I didn't have a car, so. But as I had said before, I know we have to plan for the future, but I just believe that we're doing something that's really unnecessary at this point. That's my opinion, and thank you, I'm entitled to it. And, but we've gone over this many times. That's why I'm just sitting and listening. I don't, everybody seems to be pleased with what's going on out there now. And we are sitting here trying to come up with something to change it. You're according, if you wanted to put up a 4-story building, that's not gonna happen, because first of all, you have to have the parking. I don't care how much, if you got the room for the building, you gotta have parking, and that's not gonna be allowed. That would certainly deter anybody who's trying to put a building. I just don't understand why we going over all of this, R5 and all these letters and that. I know this, the comprehensive plan. I understand that. So we put this in on the books and let's let it be, because we're not, there's nobody wanting to do anything at this point. So, but all these questions we're asking, the minute somebody wants to build, we're gonna have to go over the whole thing again, because somebody, an engineer or somebody, is gonna come up with an idea. Oh, we didn't think of that. And it happens all the time. But anyway, I don't have nothing to say about it more.
You've been doing this a lot longer than me. My impression was that the comprehensive plan was trying to have us look at the zoning so that when somebody comes up with that plan to do something and they say, you know, like right now it's got a commercial use and, you know, that's great and we'll leave it and all the people that are there, you know, do good things. But I think it was saying that should somebody want to do a mixed use, or we think it would fit in that area, and if somebody comes up with a plan, we wouldn't have to zone according to somebody's plan. It would be zoned for what we think would fit there, and we wouldn't have to revisit that at the time of the plan. I thought that's what the whole point of it was. I could be wrong.
I think the point was that the comprehensive plan had an envisionment in it when they thought about it and thought, okay, this is what Crotonville looks like, but this is what it should look like in their idea was it really is residential with a couple of businesses that are kind of industrialized more than not plopped in the middle, and their vision was, and I mean that's the map, right? Your comprehensive plan is your map, and so to them the thought process was that it should be residential. We started having a conversation to try to clean up whatever this is, because if we're either going to do it or we're not going to do it, it should be decided and done.
Yeah.
At this point, until somebody revises, and God knows we probably need to do that since it's from 2001. And I think you're supposed to do it every 7 years. So we are way overdue. So I think that's part of, you know, and you guys are funny because you're diametrically on opposite sides. You're like, leave it alone, and you're like, we should have a vision, like, and we should continue the vision. And so my thought process is, this is what if I could, what I would want is an NC that would allow residential, and I don't mean multifamily. I mean that's fine. I mean the option of single family, multifamily, and mixed use in a way that we would be able to contain the size. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what I would think of doing. I don't know that we need to just make it residential and say you don't have a choice. I don't know that I really think we should keep it GB 1. So NC to me is a good compromise, as long as
But-
we allow some residential in there, because I can't see why I would stop it.
Would it make sense to maybe, based upon what you were just saying, to maybe do the NC with residential as a special permit use, where you'd have to come in and have a little bit more scrutiny of it? I don't know whether you think that might make sense.
That's a possibility.
I just don't want to end up with something like on Hawks Avenue where they're jamming 50 houses into like this,
The NC
this big a place.
That's, I think that's what we want to
And
make
the
sure that
NC
we're
zone
careful about.
only permits 2 stories.
Yeah,
It can be 35 feet, but
Okay.
only 2 stories.
yeah.
But
That
it
makes
can't be
sense.
purely residential, you're saying, unless we say it could be.
No, but we were just talking about height and bulk and
So
stuff.
that's
mean-
my opinion on that. I would be very interested to know with what you guys' opinion, because at some point we got to make
Yeah,
a
I'm close to your
decision.
opinion.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, I think, you know, I mean, I'm hopeful that we can come up with something that works, and that also works as, you know, for commercial properties, but that also has, you know, like, that kind of straddles these things where, you know, I know, Councilman Wilshire, what you're saying, that, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yep.
But I don't think it ain't broke. I actually
Oh, you
think it
think
is
it's
broke.
broken, huh?
I think just because it's there, if you drive around and you look at it, it to me doesn't look like what it should look like. That's my opinion. And I know, you know, I don't mean for anybody to take offense at this. I'm glad that the businesses that are there are doing well. They obviously found a spot, but if it doesn't seem to me like it fits with the terrain. Again, I go back to, you have these squiggly little
I just-
windy roads, and you're having these businesses on these, you know, these kind of crazy roads. The parking's crazy over there. I mean, it's like things are like retrofitted into these little spaces. That doesn't seem like it makes sense. It doesn't seem like it was the way that it should have, that if you had planned it, you would have planned it that way.
Go ahead.
Here's an unpopular statement, I'm sure.
It's always a good way to start.
Oh, yeah. If we don't feel it fits there, where in our town does that type of business fit?
That's a good
That's
question.
my question, because we can't keep disallowing it everywhere and then going, oh, no business. So we really have to think about where does it fit,
well-
and we don't want to disallow
No,
and
honestly,
drive them all completely out.
it's a good question because.
Which is unpopular, I'm sure.
Because a business owner came to me and said, very similar kind of thing about North State Road. Because, you know, we've been having these conversations about making North State Road more walkable and, you know, maybe increasing the, you know, having more multifamily housing and having some of, you know, other uses that might lend themselves, again, so, but, you know, I mean, honestly, North State Road is this wide road. It really is, like, if you think about, you know, Central Avenue, you know, you do need to have a place for certain businesses. So maybe we say, you know what, North State Road really is a good spot for these businesses, these more, light industrial / you know, whatever, more general business uses that have these other kinds of things. And maybe then we say, you know, that really should be our commercial corridor, that where you have like these bigger, you know, operations, and you can have trucks and you can have, you know, cars and the problem is none of our spaces don't have residential bumped up right behind them.
Down
All
there.
of them do,
I
you know,
just
and
wanna-
even, wait, let me just add, because I wanted to add one more thing about the Crotonville, where you said nobody's complaining. That is actually not true. We get regular complaints about noise from the people who live back on Samstag and on old, you know, some of the homes there. And I
Noise from?
recently, from some of the businesses there, I don't know if it's the Roofer or the Corvette or one of them, you know, they start very early in the morning, people are still sleeping, and they start their business quite early in the morning. Sometimes they're there on weekends, and they're not necessarily supposed to be, so we get complaints from people about noise. And that's this whole issue of having our residential just butted right up against our business, and I don't know where that doesn't exist, but it certainly exists. And then we also, I spoke to somebody recently who lives there, and a lot of times we don't get people coming out to tell you, yeah, I really like that suggestion that you have, because of course it should be. But I had a resident who lives right in Crotonville and said, oh yeah, that's obvious, it should all be residential. Of course.
I actually
We're
had
not-
somebody
we're
say
not
that to me
hearing-
too.
We're not hearing the people
They-
because they think, yeah, that sounds good. What do I have to complain about? You sounds like you guys are doing a good job. So we're not gonna hear from them. We're hearing from people who are not happy with it. So just saying.
I just wanted to know, that long building there, what, was that a, aluminum siding? in
Where
the
the-
roof at one time, that.
Where the Corvette guy
I
is?
think that's what's there now.
That was, remember Nick from Westcon? That was his auto body shop. He was down in the Hollow by the Austin Bakery, and he built that building back in the probably mid to late 60s. And then he moved his body shop from there till, up to there till he retired.
Cause I know, I used to see trucks come in there, they making deliveries or whatever used to be there. I just don't remember, it's been so long ago, and at the time, it wasn't of interest, so I didn't pay attention. But-
Originally, it was built for a body shop.
Oh, okay. And that was from the 60s until the present, there was no problem with it? Complaints or whatever?
You know, not that I heard, you know.
No, he does.
I don't,
No, I know
It wouldn't
you
have
were-
I'm
come
kinda
from
on the
him.
bottom, yeah.
Yeah, but well, okay, that's fine.
I mean, I agree being sensitive to noise, you know, weekends, late at night, early in the morning. I absolutely agree. There's, you know,
I think David's gonna need some direction from you, so you need to kind of
Yeah, what do you?
come up with
I mean, it
cohesive,
sounds to me
plan.
like where we were thinking, where we were was looking for a compromise, which allows for, you know, residential in a variety of different iterations, whether multifamily artist loft, mixed use, as well as.
But I'm saying, and single.
Single family, as well as single family. I'm not sure from a planning point of view. I mean, you said originally, your original instinct was, no, you have to choose one or the other. I'm just curious, like from a planner's point of view,
We don't want to choose.
I don't
what,
think,
no, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to have that,
well, maybe I did say at one point you have to choose one or the other. But certainly what we're talking about now is very feasible.
okay. So, I mean, I think what would be great is if we could take a look at what, you know, what the language would look like and how it would, so that, again, I think ultimately, we're not trying to hurt any of our current businesses. We're trying to have uses that make sense, that are feasible, and that are going to still be, you know, going to bring in money for everybody, you know, that are gonna be successful businesses. We don't wanna zone it for businesses that aren't gonna have the potential for success in that area.
Right. Okay, so we're talking about NC
Yeah.
with the, I don't know if, to your point, whether, however you say it, so whether it's the ability for a special permit or variance or whatever for for a single family.
Talk about that because
Right,
usually it's
whatever
the
that looks like.
intensive
Single and
use.
multi.
The other way, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I think if the intent here is to try to move it more towards the business use, then maybe you flip it in this case and you make the residential the special permit use. But
Yeah, I mean,
Let's think about that. and
yeah,
talk about
why,
it.
that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So,
I've got all that down.
Businesses are out there now.
And do we want to,
Businesses are actually there.
in the next version of the local law, not have
Well,
alternative
In that
one?
building next door.
hold on, wait, we got two
Yeah.
different conversations going on, so.
I mean, it sounds to me like,
I can't
I'm
follow.
getting the sense that nobody really wants to do alternative one anymore, which is just residential. Is that true?
Yeah, no.
Okay,
Okay,
so I
so
think we
we'll
should abandon alternative
that.
one unless
And
we
then
get a firestorm of people coming back. Wait a second, why'd you
Yeah,
get
I
rid
mean,
of that?
unless-
We'll
but I
talk
haven't
about it,
heard
but we
anybody
haven't really
yet.
heard about it, yeah.
Right. And then with respect to this map, which will be, which is alternative two now, but which would just be Exhibit A,
Get rid of that R5 and just
and
make
make that
NC.
NC, right? That's what
I think so. Yeah. The only other thing that I would like to add, you know, Donna Sheraton come out tonight, but she had some, I thought, some excellent suggestions for
I thought we
some
were
of
gonna
the.
get into that later.
Oh,
Did she have
okay.
it, it wasn't about, was it about Crotonville?
No.
No.
Okay.
So that would be next, because
Yeah, I don't have
she
that.
talked about
We'll have to get a copy of that.
Donna talked about bed and breakfasts, and her suggestion was that we not allow the amount of the layout of how many bedrooms available, depending upon, if, I don't remember what part of it.
Yes,
Kim,
it's right here.
just before we get into that one, thank you for being here to be the expert and answer questions. How many businesses, Mr. Wiltshire, I wanted to know, are currently, how many separate businesses are in that area right now?
Do you assume he knows?
Yes, he's there all the
I
time.
think it's only about 3 or 4.
I'm on North State Road all the time too. That doesn't mean I could tell you how many exact businesses are
Bet he
there.
I would bet in that Crotonville area, there's about a dozen.
About 12.
Okay, so what, I know,
And the problem is like that Crotonville area, as far as like a neighborhood store or something, I mean, there's no sidewalks, there's no parking.
right,
Yeah.
The houses are right on top of each other. It's just.
Yeah, but you know
To
what?
me, it could either be like a place for multiple family for residential, for rentals. Single family, who would buy it? Would you buy a house that the width of this room, there's a warehouse behind you? That's what it comes down to.
I think that
I don't think, first, I don't think there are that many. There's several on the purple piece,
Mm-hmm.
and the red piece is the landscaping business.
There's a tree guy there, there's a little construction guy in there, there's
You
there's
know-
a M&S Ironworks in there,
Right, but
there's,
that I know about the ironwork, and
just as a generalized statement, 50 years ago, Ossining didn't look the way it looks.
almost.
30 years ago, no, 30 years ago, it didn't look the way it looks. The condos went up in the 80s. Liz will keep reminding us how it was wooded, and there were. So, you know, we can't always envision what something's going to be 50 years from now or 30 just because we can't see what it looks like, right? Because it's not like that now, you know? There are changes. Look at downtown Village of Ossining, Harbor Square, completely different feel now in terms.
And on Highland Avenue, they tore all those buildings, it was a bank on the corner, all the way down to the hollow. They tore all the houses down to rebuild.
You're talking about urban renewal.
Yes.
I didn't say that was a good idea. I'm just saying that things do have changes, and we're not ripping
worse.
anything down
Not
to,
for the better.
but sometimes things are for the better.
This wasn't. You displaced people, no more buildings, and then when they did make some extra buildings,
Yeah.
they couldn't afford them.
Nobody thinks that urban renewal was a great idea.
I'm actually hoping that at some point we, similar to what the village is doing, we were hoping to do it with them, we'll have an opportunity to do a housing needs assessment so that we can look at what our housing stock is and if it actually
Okay, that's a
addresses.
completely different conversation.
It
Can we
is.
please just stick
No,
to
but
this? I want to get out of here today.
but-
So,
But it's relevant to the question of residential and zoning for residential,
And-
and zoning for multifamily, and zoning for mixed use.
so we will look
Because-
at it maybe.
Correct.
But I really
but
just
all I'm
want to
saying is that-
continue on this.
I know, but the point is that just to continue down the path that you were going is that our needs change, the look of our community change, the, you know, the makeup changes and how people live changes. And
Yes.
some people might like smaller spaces because they're less expensive and it might be easier for them to live and they can commute, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Okay.
that was my,
Okay, so back to Donna Sherritt's stuff.
okay, so.
What I remember specifically offhand, and everybody can jump into what they remember, I remember the bed and breakfast issue. And she was saying that she had suggestions about downsizing the recommendations for how many rooms were dependent on the sizing.
Yes.
She also had some recommendation that I kind of could agree with. What I'm not sure how I feel about is she had a whole thing about you can only eat there if you're rooming there. So I'm not sure what I think about that because
Some bed and
why
breakfasts
maybe
actually
I
have
want to go to a restaurant that's at a bed and breakfast. So I don't know about how I felt about that one.
I agree with you.
And then the other thing I remember her mentioning was something about making sure she very much appreciated the buffer recommendations, right? And the vegetation, but she felt that there should be some specifics into the type of vegetation, that they're indigenous or they're not invasive species, which I think we were talking about invasive species, so we should absolutely
I like that
put
too.
that in there because
Absolutely.
it would be
Right.
completely counterintuitive for us to be doing it on one thing and not the other.
And the other thing was, I thought that the height of the trees
Was an interesting
was interesting, where
thing.
she was saying if you're up on a hill, a 6-foot tree doesn't,
But you can't,
you're not gonna be able to have a tree.
1,000 feet tall.
well, you
1,000
can't.
feet
Have you seen
tall.
the trees around where I live? They're big.
Yeah.
They're really big.
Yeah, there's almost nothing you can do if you're overlooking a piece of property, which she is.
I don't know, but I know where. Is there an ability to plant trees that are going to grow really tall? Because
But they also
I-
grow wide sometimes. It's hard to
manage.
mix. Probably a
Well, I'm just saying where I live, there are very tall trees. So if I was high, I'm not. Actually, that's not true. I am high. I am on a little bit, and the cliff is below me. And there are trees that are down there that are way above where my house is. Now, during the winter, I can see everything. But in the summer or the spring, when the vegetation is out, there is shield, and I am up. So I think there is something to be said for the ability to put in that trees. I don't know how that verbiage goes, but
But
Wasn't she-
there's a limit, excuse me, I'm sorry, there's a limit on how tall a tree you can make somebody plant.
Okay.
It doesn't exist at present. First of all, the cost, and you probably have a much better idea than I do. I am using this one. You probably have a much better idea than I do, David, what the costs are, but the costs go up tremendously depending upon the height of the tree. So it gets to the point where, do you make it impractical to actually do a development because the screening itself would cost more than actually doing the development?
So even if you bought, you can't have trees that, you know, in their infancy, there's, you know, it'll take maybe 100 years to
There
grow.
are species that are faster growing and which grow taller than others. So
Right.
we can specify that.
Wasn't she saying something about interspersing the evergreens with deciduous? So the deciduous tend to grow taller and give the leaf canopy blocking a taller
Yes.
area. So
I mean,
I don't
because
know
it's
how that
only
would
going
be
to
worded.
continue on with all the buffers that we do have, right? With all the butting up against business and residential, we have this conflict. So to the best that we can have an ability to kind of do the best we can.
Right.
That
I'll work
I-
on that section.
Okay.
Work on that
Right,
section.
and I'm just looking at my notes. No fences of walls should be used?
I
Do you remember
think
that was? I don't remember.
there, what,
Or walls?
whatever
Walls.
was
Oh, she just saying just
utilized.
trees.
Well, I don't know that. I mean,
In some situations,
yeah. I mean,
fence turns out to be the
Better.
right solution because there just isn't enough space for trees.
yeah. I'm
Well, also, I know that, I'm just gonna use as an example, DiNapoli, I know he put a fence in, I think he might have put a fence and trees, I'm not 100% sure, to try to address the noise issue. And this actually was interesting, because it was a height, you know, I think he determined that the reason that he couldn't hear the neighbors, but the neighbors could hear him, was because of the way that the slope was. And I can't remember if it was this way or that way, where his was, or whatever, but he put fence in the trees, and he said he thinks he's actually mitigated the
and I think
problem.
she says that it's
Right,
helped.
very significantly, which is great. It's also a lesson for us to learn that it's not impossible
Right.
to have residential and commercial live in harmony if we have the right
screening.
screenings, for both sound, noise, as well as, view.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's the ability to put in the verbiage that, I mean, to the point we also that, you know, for the planning board to be able to have the authorization to say, you know, you need to mitigate in certain ways, and here are your options, but it exists. You can, you should, and you know, I think we're trying to give them the authorization to do it.
And I think the planning board tries very hard to do that.
But if we put it in codes or then they don't have to rely on cajoling and asking. They can make decisions and say, this is what you must do.
Right.
I think we can give them some options so that they have, but to be able to, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Sure,
Anybody else?
I'll
have
work
any-
on that.
Was there
agree with that?
anything?
Okay, no, I just had the artist live workspace, bed and breakfast establishments, the number of the guest rooms were too high, is what was one of her comments.
Well, I think he
The other,
looked at,
the other thing that she brought up, and I happen to actually be in agreement, is to have some, something in the code about dark sky, to help with the dark skies. That happens to be a personal issue that that become familiar with from other sources, not from her. And I think that it actually is something that we should all be paying attention to, just as we're paying attention to energy conservation. We should also be thinking about habitats and environmental sustainability along, across all paths, and that Dark Skies Initiative is one that I think is important. So if we can have something in there about lighting having to be pointed down, and having certain conditions when, it could go on and when it shouldn't go on, and things like that, that are in keeping with this sort of new awareness of how we're affecting the environment, that would be great.
Isn't there regulations to keep certain parking lots and businesses lit in a certain way also, though?
And I think you can talk about the directionality.
Yeah, the
though, of
directionality, yeah,
lights,
absolutely.
the wattage and all those sorts of things, so you can still have safety, but also not negatively impact.
No, agree, would love to have the, best of both worlds, but I don't wanna have him
Okay.
write codes against codes and then
Right.
have them
Well,
pull
I
their hair
don't,
out.
that's their job,
Oh, okay.
is for them to not write codes against codes.
We also heard from
Sorry,
Mary
Dave.
Knoll, one of the things that Mary Knoll had
I was
pointed
just gonna
out
say that I'm
was
for the R2.
was that they wanted to make they kind of suggested that besides that they're not planning to sell it anytime soon, that they want to make sure that their assets are protected, but that nobody would ever turn what they have there into
They wanna make sure their use was still.
something
Allowed.
something else. And I just wonder if we think if there's anything that we should do that would be helpful in actually protecting the buildings that were there so that they could have other types of uses. Like one of the things in our, in the land use workshops that they hold, they say, well, what kinds of spaces do you have that lend themselves to affordable housing? And a lot of times churches and seminaries and things of that nature actually lend themselves to senior housing or something like that. Like Maryknoll down the road might be a perfect spot for some
Yeah, but
kind
you
of-
can't say R2 and multi-use. Like, you gotta make a decision. And the problem is, if you leave it open,
Yeah.
then you might get, I mean, I don't know how many acres that is, but I think what we're trying to do with not having McMansions and not necessarily,
But you want them to bulldoze?
no, I don't want them to build up,
Seminary?
no,
That's
not
what I'm
at,
talking about.
yeah, but you said it might be a good place for senior housing. We're
No,
talking
I'm
about
talking
our,
the actual structure that exists though.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but we're talking about rezoning the property. So if you rezone the property to R2.
It's probably a special use permit.
Cannot then have 50 in the existing, right? So we have to figure out, I mean, that's in conflict with each other. That's my point. So, I don't know.
They're currently under a special use permit, and I think that would be, keep the zoning, the R2, and then have if the ownership should change, then they can come for a special use permit like Bethany did. And I think that would be the better thing to do.
I think, and I just asked David because he's more familiar with it than I am, but I think we're beginning to go too far afield from what was in the comp plan update and the recommendations within that. And once you start diverting too much from that, then you've got to go back and update the comp plan as well. So I think we should try to stick a little closer
Yeah.
to whatever was in the comp plan for now. And if at a later time you think that there are other uses that maybe should be considered, then you can re-examine the comp plan, update that, modify it, and then make other changes
But
to the zoning.
I think Councilwoman Feldman kind of just addressed it anyway, which would be, she said that, similar to what happened with Bethany, you could go for a special use permit.
They got a special use permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals, but it was for a use that's already permitted in the district.
Right. So
Yeah,
it
but
wouldn't
that use is not permitted in the district.
So using those, adaptively reusing those buildings for multifamily would
Is
not be a
not
permitted use.
permitted in the district. I personally am for changing it to R2. I think that's in keeping with what it's zoned for in the, I mean, when we talk about Newcastle, we're talking about right here. So, I think that I agree with that vision for those properties as the comprehensive, that's my opinion. I think we should go with the R2.
I agree. Maryknoll?
He already said he doesn't really think we should change anything.
If it,
Not for that area.
if it's for the best, I guess I'll go with it.
We could look at adaptive reuse in the next,
Correct. I will
Right,
be patient.
That's fine.
All right,
Along
Donna,
with my next one.
Donna Sherrod had, I'm looking at her notes. One other, do we have specifications that would be, in the inns, in the bed and breakfast, that there would be one parking space per room available? We don't want like parking all over the street. So I think that's a good, at least one off-street parking spot for each guest room in addition to the parking spaces needed for the owner.
I'll check the parking regulations.
Okay, just because we have no off-street, on-street parking in the winter months, or,
And then her other thing was length of stay should be restricted to 2 weeks. I don't think that.
I don't know
that's
why.
Unreasonable, because otherwise you start getting into
rentals.
rentals.
Well, oh, I see. So it
That's-
it can't be a
that's more of
rental. Okay.
It's more like a bed and
Yeah,
breakfast,
I like
right?
that. I get it. Yes.
Okay. Does that make sense, Stephanie? Yeah, I thought that was.
Is there
I'm not
anything
sure
else?
that 2 weeks is, sometimes people come up from Florida for the month to visit their kids or grandkids, whatever, I mean.
But they don't stay a month. I mean, who's staying in a?
I have relatives that
Hotel
come up
for
for
a
a month,
month.
so. Well, it's a bed and breakfast, it's different, all right.
No, I don't think anybody's staying in a B&B for a month either. I agree. We should probably limit it. 2 weeks is a long time.
We could do a little research, and isn't there that one B&B in Croton, is that still there?
Yes,
Or that inn, or is that
it
an inn?
was.
Oh, it's not there anymore.
I'm not sure if it's still there.
Oh, I guess we can find out if anybody ever
Okay.
stays more than 2 weeks.
You know, I was thinking about that before when you said, the bed and breakfast, and suppose I had somebody staying there for the bed and breakfast, and they said, okay, we're gonna have breakfast in the, well, I don't know if it's a house or a hotel, or what you wanna call it, but would you come and have breakfast with us?
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna drive there. And she already got 3 or 4 people there. So what then?
Were you gonna park?
Yeah,
that what your question is?
you're talking. And that would be to her advantage if, his, if you had a bed and breakfast and you're only serving the one meal, I'm assuming, and that's breakfast. The person would make money on the breakfast.
I don't. She did suggest that there should only be that meal. I don't agree with it. I think that you should allow, if somebody wants to have a bed and breakfast and they have a restaurant and it's a place that people want to go to, then I think that
I do too.
in my,
A lot of B&Bs serve
in
more than just
my, push
A lot of
to,
B&Bs serve more than just breakfast.
yes, and my push to have more business, I would love somebody, please somebody, open a B&B and have a restaurant. I will get family to come. I think it would be fabulous.
Because I think that's kind of rough to say.
Yeah.
just
Yeah, I know. I think I agreed on downsizing some of the amount of rooms, but
Yes.
I think it should have a restaurant that serves whatever they want to serve.
It doesn't actually indicate.
Whoever comes.
It could have a restaurant, exactly, right?
No, no.
But
It's
it could have
a
like cafe.
food
She
service.
cooks in the kitchen.
Cafe or
They serve dinner and the guests are at dinner and they want some other people to come.
I think there are 2 different kinds of B&Bs. One
there
kind
are
of B&B,
B&Bs
I
that
thought
have
the inn-
restaurant.
yeah.
The inn is the one that has more of a restaurant.
One kind of B&B would just serve to the people who are staying there, and there are some B&Bs, but you might call them inns, that have a full-fledged restaurant open to the general public.
So can we not have that ability?
You can, I'm just not sure.
Why not?
Where are B&Bs, are only in Crotonville?
No, they're permitted on the property behind
Where the school district
up
is.
Executive Boulevard, on the property behind Central Westchester Business Park 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you had 4 rooms or 5, I think 4 or 5, 4 rooms, and but you had a little restaurant where people could come who live here and could go, I don't see I think that's a good thing.
I
So do I.
agree.
So I think we should
You got-
allow a restaurant
You
in
uprooted
a
my whole life,
B&B.
whole life here. Now all of a sudden I can only feed one person.
Right.
No.
But anyhow,
I would actually like to see B&Bs, in some of the historic houses that, I think that would be more of a draw than
Is
that-
a new construction, but that's
that
just
would be
me.
to the person who wants to do this now.
So is there anything else that we have to, that
Right.
anybody else suggested that, or that we wanted to
I'm
think?
just
'Cause
Waskin Dam, their roofing company, they said need an NC or residential.
Right.
Serve them, providing parking, they provide parking to the neighborhood residents.
Oh, the
But
roofing
if
company?
they had to pick one, they said number 2 is their desire, and then Kevin Carriel, he was the one with the 5-family home, and he was opposed to any zoning change, because it was gonna lower his property value.
But he's in an NC, so he's okay with NC.
He's in GB.
I thought he said, all right.
I don't think so. I think he's,
No?
I think he said he was
Oh,
in
I
NC.
thought, oh, okay, I thought you said, I thought, David, you said it wouldn't have been permitted, so it couldn't have been NC, but.
He's opposed to any zoning change in his property, but.
And I think that those were the
I
main.
think his property is the one on the corner, on the sort of westerly corner of Old Albany Post Road and Stanley Avenue.
Yeah, right.
This one, let me see.
Oh, here.
I think this is his
Yeah, I
property.
think that's
So
right.
that's NC.
No, it's GB.
Oh, this is GB. That's why. That section is GB.
Well, if it's on the corner, it's NC.
It's NC. It's currently NC.
You're right.
Okay, we don't spend the night.
So it won't change.
Well, we gotta wait for him to salt the roads anyway.
Okay, are we done?
I think
Anything
I think,
else?
did we hit all the main things? Was there anything else you remember hearing about that you thought that we should have a conversation about that?
Not that I wrote down. I can look at the
We're good with the setbacks
work
and
tomorrow when I,
The noise, we heard from Ellen Kahan, hour limits,
Something
including
about cabarets. What was it that we were suggesting?
different hours of operation,
What
cars.
will
which we can't because of the state, according to Christie.
Oh.
Okay,
So we can't do that.
Yeah, there was a suggestion that you make them close early, but you can't if they have a liquor license.
correct, okay. I think that.
See, I listen.
The liquor
Finally,
license
a
lets
client
them,
who listens.
the liquor license lets them go till what time?
I don't know that I'll
Oh,
act
it's
on it,
not.
but
Yeah,
4 in the morning?
it's either 3 or 4 in the morning, yeah.
I thought it was 1. just
I
remember
know
looking
for
at it.
sure that the village does not allow any business to be open past 2.
Well, that's
So-
the village's problem.
I'm
okay?
not, I will just let you
Your
know.
lawyer is telling you, if somebody's got a liquor license, you can't make them close before their liquor license says they have to close.
And I know that they do be open until 4.
yeah, the
Well,
bars are
no,
open
no.
till 4.
None of, well, we only have 3 places that have a cabaret license right now in the town. And I could tell you for sure, Terra Rustica is not open until 4 in the morning.
But they could be if they
Not
wanted to
Terra,
be.
It's Hema. So there are 3, Marion, who has?
Maya
Terra?
Rivera.
Right, nobody, and I don't, we'll see
Terra
next, we'll see when we have the public hearing,
they-
but I
they-
haven't heard anybody
They
complain.
may choose to close earlier because they don't have enough business to stay open later.
I'm just
But we
asking.
can't tell them they have to close.
I hear you, I'm still asking a question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
When they grant a cabaret license, with their liquor license, they can be open until 4 a.m. However, the cabaret ends at 2 a.m.
Okay,
Your speaker is off, I think.
there you go.
So, yeah, and with the village, the cabarets are only issued up until 2 a.m., but the businesses can stay open until 4 a.m.
Okay, so, who, do you know offhand who has the it's Maya, Haymon, and Westchester, so those are the 3.
Taruski
So, Hamas, right, so the cabaret, so the question is, what time did we say that we wanted to change the hours for the cabaret to be effective?
You're talking about actually playing music and stuff.
Cabaret,
Oh, that you can play around with. You just-
I know, that's what we're talking about, council.
One thing on weekends, on weekends, Friday and Saturday,
She's looking, he's looking.
what the section says is no cabaret shall have amplified music outdoors at any time, nor shall such music be played indoors after 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday nights, nor after 12 midnight on weekends.
Okay.
I'm okay with that, but I think that what I think we need to put in there is, something about not being able to continue until they do mitigation of soundproofing, or mitigation of sound, I don't wanna say proofing, cause that sounds like you
Mitigate soundproofing, you want a soundproof or
screen or mitigate sound issues.
Off-site, isn't it?
Yes.
there is
Yeah, I think there's already provisions about not being able to.
This is out of the noise
We've
chapter.
gone through this for years.
Well, I have to tell you,
Is that a
Planting
residence?
trees, they put up walls.
well, Haymont House seems to have done an okay job, but we have another business we're having problems with.
And
The one in Briarcliff?
it's currently until midnight, or we're making it until midnight?
I think we're
Right.
making it Friday and Saturday to midnight.
What I just read was existing.
I'm sorry.
So
What?
the section I just read was existing code. So
Oh, existing code was Friday and Saturday to 12 and Sunday to Thursday to 11. And what's our change?
we haven't proposed to change that.
Why did I see something about changing
Cabaret.
Yeah, we're changing it with respect to adding lighting standards
Ah,
and making it
sound-
clear that the noise code
and noise.
applies.
Okay, that's exactly it. Okay, we're not changing hours, but noise,
Okay.
right?
The owner, proprietor, manager.
We're not changing the
person in
noise, we're
charge
just
shall
making it
use
really
light
explicit in the cabaret chapter that there are provisions in the noise chapter that apply,
Okay.
just sort of making that known. in the
Showing it
cabaret
in
chapter.
2 places.
Yes.
Okay. What does that provision say?
There's two. One is the owner, proprietor, manager, and person in charge shall use due care and diligence to ensure that persons entering or leaving the premises do not cause disturbances in vehicles arriving or departing the premises, do not make excessive or unnecessary noise. In the event that the police intervene to prevent disturbance or to maintain order and prevent unnecessary noise, the owner, proprietor, manager, and person in charge shall comply with the police. Before that, it says no license shall be granted unless the premises where the proposed cabaret is to be located are soundproofed, or provision is made so as to prevent any sounds or noise which may be produced in or from premises from exceeding the sound levels at the adjoining property established by the chapter 130 noise.
So- So we need to figure that out, because we're not supposed to be even giving the licenses for cabaret if they're not soundproofing. And yet we had 2 establishments. Haymont has been an issue for a while, but there was only 1 resident, but they worked together, and now it seems like that has been mitigated. Now we have Westchester Ballroom, who was supposed to and has not. And so we have to,
We just have to enforce it, we don't have to grant them a cabaret license again.
until
It's,
then, right.
You know, that they're coming before us, and if the soundproofing hasn't been effectuated, we don't need to grant them a cabaret license again.
Well, I don't wanna, and we don't wanna stop the businesses from doing it. We just want them to comply with what they have to comply with. So I
Okay.
think the issue this time is we just say you can't get it until you comply, and until it is shown that you have complied.
I think 12 o'clock's kind of early, but I understand that the neighbors don't, so.
Well,
I think not having music outside is not great either, but that, you know, again, I don't live there, so. If I lived there, I
can't-
might feel differently, right?
you can't have music outside there. It
Any of them?
the topography bounces off
I mean,
the
like,
mountains.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know, Terra Rustica has that nice open, whatever, it would sort of be conducive to have, you know, jazz or whatever at night. But
then,
I
and
think
I
we're
would,
getting
and I-
off topic. Okay.
I'm just saying, that we were trying to encourage our businesses to be successful.
well, no, this is on topic. Outside music is on topic, isn't
Okay.
it?
Oh,
Yeah,
but
it's right in the code.
you don't allow it.
Yeah, but, oh, you're saying we'd have to reopen it to allow it?
You already don't allow it.
No,
yeah.
we don't allow it, right.
But you're talking about
Allowing
allowing
it,
it, and I'm saying that's not off topic. We're just,
Okay.
No,
right?
okay.
so I don't disagree. But it would probably have to be very different hours. Like, you couldn't let it be till 11 or 12 then. You maybe 9 or 10.
Whatever, or something like that.
Right. Well, nobody's come and asked us.
Amon House had a
So how
problem.
about we, if somebody came and asked us, then maybe we would get, decide. Nobody's
Amon
come.
House had a problem with afternoon music outside.
Right, because it says no music outside ever.
So, and this was in the afternoon, so
Right.
Right.
they didn't want the weddings outside. It was all kind of
Yeah.
hassle, so.
I mean, I had another municipality where they allowed music outside, and there was nothing but complaints all the time.
Right.
So,
Right, and nobody, at this point, you've already gone through 100 years of issues with the Haymont thing, and we're not we're not being asked by anybody else, so.
Okay.
I will not open that can of worms.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we have a
I'm
couple
good
of
with
others.
that. It's okay, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we
We're
got
good?
through our suggestions based on some of the public input that we've gotten. And I guess our next step would be to review and have another opportunity for the continuation of the public hearing, looking at whatever some of the new recommendations are based on our conversations
and
tonight.
we need some input from David about how long you think it would take to get this finalized, because we need to extend the moratorium, and we don't want to do it longer than we need to.
Sure, sure. Well, the next
Well, they're scheduling to.
public hearing is the 7th.
7th, yeah.
And you'd like to have it in advance of that.
Well, we have to have it in
Yeah,
advance of that.
so,
Well,
how about by
next week is,
30th?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we don't have another meeting between now and then.
No, but you're required to have the draft of the law
Oh, I see.
available to you at least 7 days before the meeting.
Okay,
So, we can plug in a time, if you can let us know by the 30th, and if you can let Christie know, because I'm gonna be away. And so she'll just plug it in,
Plug-
the time frame. If you say I need 30 days, or I need 45 days, or I need 60 days, she'll plug that into the
I'll
moratorium.
have the next draft ready,
he just said he'll have it on the 30th.
Oh, okay, you'll have the
the next
draft on the
version,
30th.
the next
All right.
version of this.
So how close do we think we are?
I
I'm
think
getting
we're
there.
close. I think we're,
We do like
I
a
think we're there.
45-day extension on the moratorium, and that would cover it? Okay.
and if we finish earlier, we can end the moratorium before that,
course, yeah.
right? Okay.
We haven't seen comments from the EAC yet.
so why don't you do 60 days?
Or the planning
You
board.
shouldn't,
But the
yeah,
EAC said they had.
but you don't wanna, you should just say 60, because that way if it's, but
can
to
shorten it.
extend and extend, we talked about this in the beginning. It's so much easier to make it longer than you think, because then you're not extending it 100 times, so. I
I'm
would,
fine with that as long as you don't have any issue with making it 60.
All right, you should-
60, we're saying 60 days instead of
60, all right, fine.
Okay?
and hopefully we'll be done
Okay.
in 30.
Correct.
But
We'll shoot for.
At least
All right,
give
thank
plenty
you
of
very
time.
much, everybody, for
Okay.
that fruitful conversation, and, I lost all, yeah, no, I think we're almost done. Let me just check if I have anything else. Otherwise, just remind everybody that next week is our 5th Tuesday, so we do not have a meeting next week. And, enjoy your 5th Tuesday, everybody.
You're not having a,
Have a little party
Dance?
here, a little dance.
I'm having,
Okay.
he's my dance buddy about this, but he didn't have.
And I just, let me see if there's anything else here.
Say it now.
Okay, so we did I know, just
Have a good night, all.
second. Thanks, David, thanks for your help. Okay, I just wanted to,
Don't forget about that ice outside.
Yes.
hopefully there's been some salt put out. I wanted to just adjourn the meeting in honor of Margaret Pastel, a longtime Austin resident who passed away last week. Margaret was a fixture in our community, and she's survived by a big Austin family, including our very own Victoria Caffarelli in the town supervisor's office. That's her grandma. So please join me in a moment of silence in Margaret's honor. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for our next meeting, which will be back here at 16 Croton Avenue at 7:30 PM on Tuesday, February 7th, where we'll have a special visit from several of our department heads to discuss alarm fines and certificates of occupancy, the new town pavilion and park rental application, and the 2017 Open Spaces Capital Project.
woohoo.
So get ready. Look forward to seeing everybody then. Otherwise, stay dry, stay safe, stay off the roads if you possibly can until you need to. Oh, right, I forgot. Motion,
Adjourn to executive session for personnel and contracts.
So moved. Come on, you two.
we must.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
I need to